I think the Florida Gators are going to beat the Texas A&M Aggies. Here's what they have to do, though, to do that.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find all my written work about the Florida Gators with swampsignal.substack.com. We broke down the run game against Texas today. This episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected, only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And this is going to feel a bit like last week. Where I kept talking about how early down wins were going to be really important in this game. I think it's more so important for Florida's defense to win on early downs than their offense. Their offense does still need to win on early downs, but still need to have that defensive early down wins. Like early downs for Florida's defense versus Texas A&M's offense could very well decide this game. I mean, a big reason for that, Florida is one of the very best early down defenses in the country. Florida has an incredibly stout run game, and that's why I think, or incredibly stout run defense, and that's why I think that it's going to come down to those early downs for a big portion of it, because Texas A&M going to try to do it with the run game on early downs. So Texas A&M usually pretty good on early downs. They're like 54th in the country on early downs. Florida's they're 24th in the country on early downs, and Florida's 27th. So this is going to be two very good teams in that area. With Florida's defense against Texas A&M's offense. Texas A&M is one of the best early down offenses by pretty much every metric that you look at, and Florida is one of the best early down defenses by pretty much every metric that you look at. And so this is going to be like we hear all the time where Billy Napier talks about, like this is good on good. And coaches, I'm just using Billy Napier because he's the Florida coach. But coaches in general say, yeah, this is good on good. That's what it is. That's what this is matchup-wise. When we talk about the first or the early downs, that's what it is. It's good on good. It's an early down rushing attack that's good, great, and an early down rushing defense that's really good. So I think looking at that matchup is huge, not just because it's what Texas A&M wants to do, right? Like I think it's vitally important to acknowledge that that was maybe like the nerdiest verbiage I could have used there. But it's important to acknowledge that while Texas A&M has their game plan, like Florida's game plan needs to be just honestly ruining your day. Like that's what defense is. That's why cornerbacks are the villains, right? They're never the hero in these stories. It's the Deion Sanders. It's the Josh Normans. It's the Richard Shermans. They're the villains. To be a good defense, you need to be the villain. And Florida was a great villain against Arch Manning. Has been great villains all year, really. But this is Texas A&M wants to do this. On early downs, Texas A&M wants to run the football. They want to take away the obvious passing situations. Florida's defense needs to take that away from them. Texas A&M does not want to get into a battle where they're in 3rd and 7th or beyond. If Florida wins on those early downs, you set up those tough 3rd downs for Texas A&M. And I think we saw last week what Florida's defense can do pass rushing. On Wednesday with Swamp Signal, I broke down the Florida Gators defensive pass rush plan, which was one of the best you're ever going to see, truly. That was just like it was all schemed up to just whoop ass. Pretty much is the only way that it's the only way that I know how to describe it, which isn't the most appropriate way to describe it, but it's the only way that I know how because that's what it was. It's not appropriate to say, but it's appropriate to describe it. And so you want to set up those tough 3rd and 7s. I use 7 because one, that's what a lot of teams, coaches, media will use as like the long distance. But also that's the number we've heard Billy say, like that they want to get teams to and that they want to avoid themselves. Marcel Reed in those obvious passing situations has not been good. Okay. And look, those aren't easy passing situations. They aren't. It's tough to go, hey, the defense knows we need to drop back in order to convert. We need to drop back in order to do this. No one's really running on 3rd and 7. People can argue about like, oh, well, Florida runs on like 3rd and 13, 3rd and 12. Sure. Very different situations. It's still 3rd and long, but one is, hey, we're almost definitely not getting this. Let's get closer. And one is, we have a realistic chance of getting this here with just a normal drop back because teams are trying to average like 7 yards per drop back. And so we have a realistic chance of getting this. Let's go do it. Marcel Reed has not been good on those obvious passing situations. On 3rd and 7 or longer, he is completing just 38% of his passes. Okay? Just 38%. He's 7 for 18 on 3rd and 7 or longer. He, of course, poses the threat of making plays with his legs at that point, which we saw Arch take off a few times. I would hope that I really don't know what Ron Roberts' plan is going to be here because there are two very legitimate plans in those obvious passing situations, especially where you could say, hey, we're just going to blitz. Like we're going to send him. And he's not going to make that decision because Marcel Reed, very athletic, very mobile, not quick to tuck and run. So you can blitz him, make him rush a throw. And again, he hasn't been good on those throws. So make him rush a throw, take your chances that, hey, it's probably not going to be a great ball. Get off the field. You can sit in zone. Say, hey, we're going to sit in zone, keep everything in front of us, keep him in front of us, and he's going to have to beat us with his legs or with his arm. Can't beat us with his legs. That's fine too. I feel like against Texas, we saw a good bit of cover 1 from Florida with a spy underneath. Could see that as well. Like Miles Graham, one of the best spy linebackers you're going to get. Just in terms of athletically, what he can do, his pursuit speed, it's ridiculous. So you've got Marcel Reed, not very good at completing those passes. A defense that's been very good in those long situations. That's what you want to force. That's why winning on early downs for Florida's defense is vitally important because Texas A&M, without that run game, not great. Also, for comparison purposes, DJ Lagway, I think a lot of Florida Gators fans will agree, has been really bad in those obvious passing situations. He's completing 50% of his passes in those situations. So he's still completing 12% more than Marcel Reed. He's 12 for 24. Marcel Reed is 7 for 18. So for comparison purposes, we say, oh, DJ's been bad here. Been considerably better than Marcel Reed there. So that's huge for Florida. This is a Texas A&M offense that I've said this like privately to people. I feel like Texas A&M is Kentucky with really deep pockets stylistically. I think they get a lot better players because of those really deep pockets. I think they have a much better coaching staff, like Colin Klein, one of my favorite offensive coordinators in all of college football. But they're trying to play that really just like grit and grind and drag you down and make this thing muddy game. That's what I mean when I say that they play that style of football. They just do it a hell of a lot better. And I did have one of the Locked On Gators everydayers call them Tamu. It's kind of what they are. So that's and I know people are gonna get upset about that, and people are gonna be mad about that. It's fine. It is what it is. Um, it comes off way more disrespectful than it's intended to come off. I'm just saying the stylistic comparison. But hey, fight me. That's fine. Fight me. We can do that. You just let me know. We are going to talk about what else Florida needs to do in order to pull this upset off when we get back with Locked On Gators. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For the Florida Gators, I'm giving it to Jaden Ball. He delivered in a big way. Came into that game. Everybody knew, hey, Jaden Ball is going to get the football, right? Because he was. No Jacoby Jackson. By the end of the game, Duke Clark was out and already ruled out for this coming game against Texas A&M. It's tough. When the pressure's on, he came through. He did no hesitation, no delay. He showed up and he said, hey, give me my career high in carries against this number 9 team right now, and I'm going to put belt to ass on him the whole time. And he did. So just like Jaden Ball delivered for your Gators, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 to use across the app, all bonus bets. House money, free money at that point, right? Nothing to not like about that. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And if Florida's going to win this game, which again, like I've said, I think they will. I think Texas A&M is a great team. I think Texas A&M is probably going to make a deeper run than Florida, right? I think everybody agrees with that. Like Texas A&M probably going to be a playoff team. I know Florida's record is not good, and people are going to go, oh, well, you picked them to lose to Florida. That means you think they suck. No, I think Florida's a team that could hang with any team. I will also preface it by saying this. If Florida's offense doesn't show up the way that they showed up last week or better, yeah, they're probably going to lose that game. Okay, that's fine. I'll take that. I'll add that little asterisk to it. I think if Florida's going to win this game, they need to, I don't want to say win the explosive play margin, but they can't be beat by it badly. We spoke about this a couple weeks ago, where the team that has more explosive plays, as in points per play, usually wins the game. It's like 86% of the time. Texas A&M has 33 plays this season that have gone for 20 or more yards. That is third most in the SEC. I think it's behind only, if I'm not mistaken, Ole Miss and Arkansas, surprisingly. So Texas A&M has 33 plays that have gone for 20 plus yards. Florida has 17. Just over half of what Texas A&M has done explosive play-wise. That is tied for the second fewest in the SEC. I didn't even look at who is last. I'm assuming it's Kentucky, right? I am. So that's a huge difference. That is critical when we're talking about Florida being able to pull off the upset. Is like usually the team that pulls off the upset needs to have more explosive plays. You look against Texas, Florida had. I think people also gauge things differently. Like I'm talking about plays of 20 plus yards of any kind. I think a lot of people will go, okay, well, what about passing plays of 20 plus yards and rushes of 15 or something like that? Which Florida had a lot of runs that went, 12, 13, 14 yards, but weren't explosive, weren't 20 plus. Passing, they had a 60-yard pass to Vernell Brown III and a 55-yard touchdown to Dallas Wilson, which, if I'm not mistaken, those two passing plays in that one game were the same number of 50-yard passes they had for the entire season prior to. Offense hasn't been explosive, right? And they've been putting it together a bit more, right? Against LSU, they didn't at all. Against Miami, they showed a drive where they can pop things. And then against Texas, they showed that they were capable of doing it. Defensively, Texas A&M has allowed 18 plays of 20-plus yards. Florida has allowed 19 plays of 20-plus yards. And, I mean, look, I know there's going to be people that go, okay, well, Florida's strength of schedule has been significantly harder. Sure, but Texas A&M hasn't played, just a schedule full of slouches, right? Like, it's not like they've played nobodies this entire time. Like, it's not like they're coming into this game with Texas' schedule, right? I don't think Texas A&M is an overrated team. I think they're a very good team. I just think stylistically, Florida matches up pretty well with them, especially when we talk about defending the run. I think that that's a huge factor. I know people talk about how throwing the football is the cool thing now. It's oftentimes still the team that stops the run and can run the football wins the game. Which Florida, you still have your side where you've still got to figure out something on offense. We had Matt from Locked On Aggies here the other day talking about, hey, well, I think Florida's going to be able to run the football here. Physical backs have given Texas A&M a problem. I think they're going to be able to run the football. Florida hasn't been explosive. They have had their stretches where they move the ball pretty consistently. The issue's been finishing. Like, really, Florida has had a lot of stretches this season where they've moved the ball pretty consistently. Like, you take away the Miami game, and Florida moved the ball against everybody else. They just didn't finish drives at all. So I think that for Florida, they're still trying to find the explosives. I think getting Dallas Wilson back helps that. I think whatever they figured out with the passing protection last week helps a ton. You got to figure out a way to say, hey, even if we don't win the explosive play battle, we can't lose. Like Texas A&M can't have 5 explosive plays and Florida has 2. I know 3 doesn't seem like a big margin there, but when we're talking about, well, that would be 150% what Florida has. That's a lot, right? Like, that adds up, especially when we're talking about 20-plus yard plays. That's another 60 yards. That's a drive. So Florida needs to find a way to just, again, you can win it. That'd be great, but you need to get it close. I will also say that both teams have had, I'll say, a little bit of luck defensively where, Florida against Texas, there were a few plays where Texas had receivers running downfield, or tight end, I think on one of them, running downfield. Arch didn't hit it, or that one play, that the trick play where the receiver threw it. Like, people can talk about that one. I don't care about that one. I don't like that you fell for it, but like going like, oh, they're lucky they didn't connect on that. Not lucky. That's what happens when you let a receiver throw the football. They're not a quarterback. Things like that happen. You get an inaccurate ball. Florida's pressure helped create some of those incomplete passes against Texas. Yeah, but there were plays that were available for Texas that they didn't connect on. Florida and Texas A&M has had not as many, I think, or I do think that the Texas game was more glaring, but Texas A&M has had their own instances as well. Texas A&M's offense is, I'm a Giants fan, for those of you who don't know, and I feel like I want to say it's Saquon Barkley-esque, right? It's a bunch of plays that'll go for 4 yards. I'm just going to throw the microphone right in front of my face. That was great. It's a bunch of plays that'll go for 4 yards or fewer. And then all of a sudden you get one that breaks for 20 plus. And Florida's done a great job of, I want to say, limiting those 20 pluses, especially on the ground. You've got to continue that this weekend when you're facing Texas A&M, because they're going to try to do it. Like, that's what it is. They grit and grind these yards, and they grit and grind these first downs and the clock, and they just make it ugly and messy, but that's what they do. That's what they do really well. And once they get you worn down, that's when they just break. Like, Ruben Owens is dynamite. He is just waiting to pop off at any time. And so for Florida, you've got to find ways to really limit him, and restrict those plays, restrict those big plays, make them think and dunk their way, make them fight and claw for every yard. Because defensively, you could do that. Offensively, you just need to battle back and make them stop you from doing that as well. We are going to talk about the final thing for Florida to go out and win this game when we get back with Locked On Gators. This episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, right? And there are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, keep moving the game forward. I mean, look, against Texas, that 55-yard touchdown for Dallas Wilson felt like one of those moments. Like watching him catch the ball by the sideline, knowing everything he's gone through, watching him catch the ball by the sideline, go break tackles, drag a Texas defender, just drag him into the end zone. Beautiful. Like that was, I think that was a moment where like the whole fan base kind of just went, oh, we got ourselves a dude out there. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like Mazda, there's more to every highlight. There's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And similar to the Texas game, one thing that I do think needs to be going in Florida's favor here is the discipline battle. Similar to the Texas game, Florida is actually the more disciplined team here, despite how many Florida fans have seen. I'm not going to include the Long Island game. I know it was a game where no penalties. It was a game against Long Island. You shouldn't need penalties to beat their ass. And you did. So outside of that Long Island game, Florida averages 7 penalties per game. Okay. That number drops to 5 when you're on the road, because so far you've got LSU and Miami. And also that is insane, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. This team gets more disciplined on the road than at home. And look, part of it is because things piled up, right? Against USF, you had those 2 plays on the final drive that really screwed you. But against FBS teams also, because, I'm not saying Long Island, but Florida averages 7 penalties per game. Texas A&M, more. Texas A&M has the most penalties per game against FBS teams in the SEC with 9.4. 9.4 penalties per game for 75 yards for Texas A&M. The second most penalties per game in the country. That ain't a good number to have. Like, I just want to throw that one out there. Like, that's not a good number to have where you go, hey, yeah, by the way, at home, we get a ton of penalties. Because Texas A&M has played 4 of their 5 games have been at home. And so, and I spoke about this with Texas, right? It's like, well, most of your games have been at home, but you've been getting penalized a lot. Against Texas, that really bit them because it was like, all right, well, most of your games have been at home. You've been penalized a lot. Now you're going on the road. Texas A&M is, of course, still home, but even at home, Texas A&M is more penalized overall and considerably more penalized than Florida, which I think does help Florida a lot. And look, part of that could be, one of those games was Miami, where Florida wasn't on the field a ton offensively, but, defensively, they still weren't getting penalized very much. This is a Florida team that has had their lapses for sure, but overall have been pretty disciplined penalty-wise, I'll say. And I don't think anybody needs to be told how important it is to not give up yardage. Like, especially when I'm talking about giving up or when I'm talking about the early down battle to avoid a crappy late down situation. You don't want to be stuck in a 3rd and 3 or get to a 3rd and 3, and then you get a false start and you're a 3rd and 8. That makes your down significantly harder to do anything positive against, right? As far as explosive plays, it's a lot easier to create an explosive play if you get to a 2nd and 2. 2nd and short, you're going to take a shot probably. You get a false start, 2nd and 7. Now you're like, all right, well, we basically just got a 3-yard gain. We're on schedule, I guess, but even then, slightly behind. Not having penalties, not making stupid mistakes, not having stupid decisions is huge for a Florida team that, again, you're underdogs. You're facing a number 5 team in the country. Like, I know that I'm going like, oh yeah, well, Florida, I think, is going to win this game because I think they match up well. You're not going to match up well if, first off, I mean, if you don't do the things that I'm talking about, you're not going to match up well. But also, like, you're not going to match up well if you start having more penalties on the road. You're not going to match up well if you start turning the ball over. Like, neither team here is awesome at forcing turnovers, or at least winning the turnover battle. They're not. That's just what they are. Turnover margin wise, Texas A&M 0. They've got 4 picks this year. They haven't fumbled, or they haven't lost a fumble. They've got 4 picks given up. They forced 2 fumbles and recovered 2 fumbles, and they picked the ball off twice. They're 0 in the turnover margin. Florida -2. And look, I know that I'm going to say, oh yeah, Florida's -2 in the turnover margin on the year. And there's going to be people that go, okay, well, Florida has 8 turnovers this season, 5 of which came versus LSU, 2 of which came versus Texas, because you had the Hayden Hansen fumble and DJ Lagway threw a pick. And the lone turnover that we haven't talked about, by the way, is the USF pick, the crossbody one. But even excluding those games, which you shouldn't, obviously, Florida still hasn't done a great job of forcing turnovers. And I say that you shouldn't exclude those games because, well, those games happened. Like you could say, oh yeah, what are the odds DJ Lagway throws 5 picks again? You know what? What were the odds he would ever do that? Very slim, right? What are the odds any quarterback ever does that? Very slim. But the fact that he's done it once now makes me go, okay, he might do it a second time. Probably won't. But basically any quarterback ever, you can say, hey, they probably won't throw 5 picks in their career. But he's done it once. And so he's shown he's capable of doing that. He might do it again at some point. Like he could be volatile, sure. The Texas ones, a fumble, sure. And a pick where his arm got hit. I don't care that his arm got hit. Like that means nothing to me. His arm getting hit doesn't matter to me because that's part of football. Pressure got to your quarterback as he was throwing the football. He threw a pick. Like, people can try to excuse any turnovers that they want, but turnovers are turnovers and they happen. That's football. Like that's just what the game is. Florida needs to play clean football again in order to win this game. You cannot go into Texas A&M Kyle Field and have 8 turnovers, or you definitely can't have 8 turnovers. You can't have 8 penalties and think that you're going to win that football game. Like, that crowd's going to be rocking. There's no doubt about it. It's a night game in Kyle Field. That crowd's going to be rocking. Florida, you got to go in there and play calm football. And well, I don't want to say calm. Disciplined football. Because I don't want you to be calm, right? Like, I want Dallas Wilson to be biting someone's head off. I want Jaden Ball to punch someone in the mouth, not literally, but like, I don't want them playing calm. I want them playing disciplined, though. I want you wrecking them, letting them know that you're wrecking them, but not putting yourself in bad situations because of penalties. Again, the offensive line looked significantly improved against Texas. It was the same group. We know Texas has a good defensive line. Same group. Florida just played a lot more disciplined football. Better communication. Better diagnosing things. A lot cleaner. Florida does that again. You give this team average offense and the defense they've been playing, Florida should win this game. I had someone comment, well, if Texas A&M wins 38-10, then what? Are they going to get credit, or is Florida just bad? If any team can score 38 on Florida, you deserve credit, because I've seen this team go out there against Miami, a top, 3 ranked team in the country, anywhere you look, not do anything on offense and still not give up 30. I watched this team have a game where they threw 5 picks, one of which was a pick 6, still not give up more than 20. If you could score 38 on this defense, man, then so be it. Like, I'm not, that is what it is at that point. Florida scoring 10, we'll see why they scored 10. We'll see about that. But for Florida, you have to win early downs, especially defensively. You need to, again, just not get destroyed in the explosive play margin. Play clean football again. You do those things, you got a pretty damn good shot at winning this game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow immediately after this Texas A&M game. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all of my written work about the Florida Gators with swampsignal.substack.com, and I'll see you all next time.